be afraid. The first thing we learn, that God speaks to us in our fears. God will speak to you in your moment of fear. That's the first thing you learn from the text. When you are going through something, God will speak to you in your moment of fear. Notice he speaks to Abraham. And notice what else in the text, musicians, that really got my mind. That he comes to Abraham in a vision. He comes to Abraham. Abraham is dealing with fear. But God comes to Abraham in a vision. Abraham is not singing. Abraham is not preaching. Abraham is not behind some stained glass windows, but Abraham is in a moment of fear, and in his moment of fear, God comes to Abraham in a vision. Somebody ought to thank God that just because I'm in a moment of fear, that God is still communicating with me, and as long as King Jesus is talking to me, everything is going to be all right. Somebody ought to holler, amen, amen. He came to Abraham in a vision. Amen. He comes to Abraham in a vision. And the first thing he says is, don't be afraid. He communicates to Abraham in his fear. So many times the church, I'm trying not to get happy, amen. So many times the church teach people that God stops talking to you in your fears. But the devil is a lie. How many of you who are listening to me can see me and hear? How many of you glad that God continued to communicate to you while you were going through your moments of fear? And it was him communicating to you that made you get up and say, the Lord is real in my life. So here he communicates to Abraham. And God uses this vision to reveal himself to Abraham. He reveals his glory to Abraham. He makes himself known unto Abraham. And he gives Abraham these comforting words. Don't be afraid, Abram. Don't be afraid. How many are glad that God knows your name and that God has your name written down? And when God got a blessing for you, he'll call you by your name. So God is telling us today that in your moment of fear, that don't be afraid because I'm still God. Don't be afraid because I'm still talking to you. Don't be afraid because I'm still making ways out of no ways. Don't be afraid because I've got it all in my hands. Now, there's a question that we must ask ourselves. Will God's promises be enough? Amen. That's what we got to ask ourselves. Will his promise be enough? Would God's promise be enough to Abraham? Because all he said was, don't be afraid. That's what he says. Don't be afraid. And then he moves into the next stage of his talk with Abraham. No wonder my grandmother used to say, just a little talk with Jesus, it'll make everything all right. Notice he said, don't be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. That's where the Chick-fil-A thing came to my mind. I saw them running out of Chick-fil-A with the shields on their head. And they were using it as a form of protection. And it would not get off of my mind. Chick-fil-A with the shields on. I began to think, and when God say he's our shield, and this what got my attention, their shield was from the top of their head to right under their chin. But I thought about the God that I serve. Hey, man. He guards more than my head. He guards more than my cheek. But he's all over me. He is my shield. He protects me all over. God is my shield.